Hey, this is Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is the Expecting Aerialist podcast with the Digital Podcast Network. How's it going, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in. I thank you, the worldwide aerialist family, for listening and keeping this podcast alive. This is the summer of 2026. We are in our 6th season and have a lot of great stuff coming up. Number one, coming into Houston in July. We're doing the Texas Aerial Gathering here in San Antonio in August. I'm hitting Dallas Circus Center December 5th and 6th, and then NECA, the New England Center for Circus Arts, in January again. If you are wanting to do an online course with me, I have aerial rehab, a comprehensive beginner to intermediate course, and a free mini course in case you want to just check out my style. Go to my website for that. Go to the show notes for all those links. And I'm so excited to be here, you guys. Let's get started. Hi, my friends. I don't often come on here without a guest, but I thought it'd be worth it to talk about postpartum exercise and what we can do in those 6 weeks before we get, quote unquote, signed off for all exercise, because it's like crazy that you go from 0 to 100 and that you have this check mark and you have this thumbs up to do whatever you want, but you haven't done anything. So we're talking about micro progressions. In aerial, we use them all the time as we get our bodies used to loading a certain amount of weight on our arms and our abs, blah, blah, blah. And you're just supposed to go from 0 to hero. And there's not a lot of guidance. So from what I've learned from being the host of this podcast and from my work as a Pilates trainer and an aerial instructor, I feel like I can give some really good guidance here. Okay. So, a couple things before we start. In Pilates, we have something called pre-Pilates. Pre-Pilates is the diaphragmatic breathing that we do before we start moving on the reformer or on the tower, or on the Cadillac, or on the Pilates chair. We do a certain amount of breath with a mind-body connection to the rib cage muscles, to the transverse abdominis, to zipping up your pants. And we do this in Pilates a lot regarding the core. And it's called pre-Pilates. And there should be something called pre-exercise for postpartum. And that's what I'm going to kind of coin this as, pre-exercise. Because what we want to think about is the movement that you are already doing the moment you leave the hospital, which is sitting in a chair, sitting up out of a chair, getting into bed, getting out of bed, holding your baby and carrying your baby and sitting down to breastfeed. All of these motions we are doing potentially mindlessly. But the thing is that we can get ourselves ready for that 100% exercise with breathing techniques in the movements that we are doing to take care of our baby for those 6 weeks in that space of time after the birth and before you get that thumbs up. Okay. So, number one, you need to know how close to neutral you are in your pelvic floor. So seeing a pelvic floor specialist. So a lot of times all it takes is going to your primary care doctor. You should be able to see or talk to your primary care doctor and ask for a prescription for a pelvic floor therapist. My insurance covered it. Hopefully yours does too. And if they don't, maybe you're out of pocket for one session, but what you really need to know out of that one session is how close to neutral your pelvic floor is. Are you hypertonic? Are you too tight and inconsistent contraction, like many of us are? A lot of aerialists, a lot of ballet dancers, a lot of dancers, period, are. Or are you weak in your pelvic floor and you need to strengthen? Like, where are you on the pendulum of that? Because with all exercise, you kind of need to know where you are. You need to know if you're weak, if you're tight, if you're just too tight and nothing can strengthen because it's in a consistent space of contraction already. So the pelvic floor specialist, or the PT, pelvic floor PT, will actually put his or her hands up your hoo-ha-ha and feel around, and they can tell you if you're high tone, if you're in constant, oh, somebody's coming. Hold on. Bean, I told you I was recording. What are you doing? Are you coming over here to bug me? I am not with anybody. I'm doing a recording by myself. You want to say hi to listeners?
Hello.
Hello, listeners. What are you doing, Bean?
I don't want to throw away my food.
But you don't want to finish it right now?
I don't though.
You're done? Okay, leave me alone and I'll come back. It's okay. I'll put it in the fridge.
Then I can eat my ice cream.
Yeah, then you can, you got to wait until I'm done. Go. I'll come downstairs when I'm ready, okay? Okay, you got to be quiet though. Okay, so my friends, she always stays in the podcast because it's too hard to edit all of it out. You are important. Okay, so you got to know where neutral you are, right? Because if you don't know where your neutral is, if you don't know if you're too tight or too weak and need to strengthen, you don't really know where you're at. Because if you're hypertonic, you need to do more of the relaxation, like common sense. And if you're weak, you need to do more of the strengthening. So number one, it is useful to see a pelvic floor PT even one time for them to stick their fingers in that space and find out what is going on, because this is one thing that we can't do ourselves. Okay. All right. 2 bottom lines. Bottom line for pelvic floor participation. We want participation of the pelvic floor when we do movement. When we do normal aerial, when we do a straddle up and we're a healthy aerialist, the pelvic floor is participating without us telling it to, without us doing a thing. It is happening automatically. So what happens a lot of the times, which happened to me postpartum, is when I try to do something like a straddle up, my hip flexors would be on, my quads, my back, my arms, but my pelvic floor would not be working. It would not be participating. It wasn't joining in on the movement, and therefore I was training without, then my other muscles were compensating in some way, shape, or form. So, bottom line is...
your graduation?
No, but can you give me a second? So, what we want out of these exercises eventually is to get automatic pelvic floor to participation. Okay? And then the bottom line for healing diastasis recti, all of us, 100% of women who are pregnant, get diastasis, whether or not it comes back easily, if it sews back at all, this is the question mark we have. Okay? So the bottom line for diastasis recti is we have this muscle called the transverse abdominis. It wraps around us like a corset, and we need to train it to close back together. And all that is, it's kind of simple from a conceptual standpoint. We are sewing it back together with our exercises all the time, which is why Pilates is so great for diastasis recti, as long as you're not coning. Coning is when you turn on your abs and it becomes pointy at the center line, because you're kind of using too much intra-abdominal pressure, meaning like if you bear down and kind of like blow into a balloon, that type of blowing, where you are just pushing out on all of your organs and muscles, versus doing what we used to do when we were prenatal, which is hug the baby with our abs. You wanted to turn the abs on and hug your baby from all sides, front, back, center, everything with your transverse abdominis. So now that the baby's not in there anymore, we want to sew that line together without creating coning. Okay, so here is the process. Now imagine you're laying in your bed and we are not taking any movement already. First thing, we are just breathing and turning on what is going on the inside without moving our bones, okay? That is why we call this pre-exercise. So you're not breaking any rules by doing this. I mean, the 2 things that I would like you to be is not bleeding and not super inflamed from your labor. You want to be healed, but you're not exactly ready to exercise. We are ready to turn things on from a mind-body perspective. Bean, can you stop making noise, my love? I'm recording, my love. Okay. So you're lying in bed, you have your knees knocked together, your feet on the floor, your knees up to the ceiling. So you're just in a very relaxed position with your knees bent. You want to imagine your pelvic floor is a trampoline. The trampoline is bouncing towards the wall in front of you, all the way back up into your organs. And the release of this trampoline downwards is just as important as the contraction upwards, because what we want is neutralness. We want to be as flexible as we are strong, as we are in aerial, as we hope to be. So you want to think of it as a trampoline. Some people say they like to think of it as like a blossoming flower. I like the trampoline because you've got this buoyancy, this bouncing. So the breath cue is you're going to inhale. As you inhale, you're going to fully relax your pelvic floor, which is all the muscles that you sit on, the muscles you pee with, the muscles you poop with, all the ones that you sit on, you want it to relax and bounce down away from you with relaxed bones. And as you exhale, you're going to bring that trampoline all the way. It's going to bounce back up into your body. And at the same time, you're going to do a transverse abdominis hold where you're going to knit it together. So on your inhale, let it bounce down. Exhale, trampoline comes up and your transverse abdominis sews in together. Okay. So you want to get used to that without any movement. That's the first thing. And if you go to see a pelvic floor PT, they're probably going to have you do some of the same stuff. Okay. So you're going to do it lying in bed. You have nobody bothering you. You're not having any movement. Okay. And so the next thing that we're going to do is try to bring the smallest amount of movement in. For example, taking one leg and doing a march. So a march is when you like pick up one knee and you put it down the next, and the shape of the leg doesn't actually change. So you're just marching up and down, laying down, and the abs are not changing, meaning the angle of your pelvis isn't changing. And so what you want to do is you want to do this breathing technique. Inhale, exhale, while you bring the knee up and the knee down. And see if you can do the breathing technique and the movement together. Okay. Next thing to try is lying in bed, sitting up in 2 ways. Okay. So we want to do that pelvic floor breathing, but in this particular case, I'm going to put that aside for a second and just learn how to sit up mindfully. Okay. 2 ways. First way is to do it without really using your abs. So if you have a C-section or something. So what you're going to do is you're laying on your back. You're going to roll over to your side. You're going to take your opposing hand down into the bed. You're going to push your hand down and then sit right up. Okay. So we don't want to use a sit up for this way of getting out of bed. You're rolling, you're putting your opposing hand down into the bed. You're pushing it away to sit all the way up. Second way is to do a curl up, like a Pilates curl up using your abs sitting up in bed. Okay. So what you want to do, lay in bed, deep breath in, you're going to relax your pelvic floor. And as you exhale, you're going to curl and peel yourself all the way up to sitting. Okay. This is us getting up out of bed. Then you swing your legs out to the side, stand up. Okay. Now you can try this with your baby. If you have a baby on your chest, what you're going to do is you're going to deep breath in, let your pelvic floor relax down towards your toes. And on your exhale, curl through your back, articulated through your spine like you would in Pilates, and sitting all the way up with the weight of your baby. So maybe you have a 8-pound baby and now you have an 8-pound weight on your chest, challenging your ab muscles to knit together and sit up. Bean, would you need something?
I want to eat my ice cream.
You want to eat your ice cream?
I don't want to throw away my food.
Okay, why don't you go ask your papa for ice cream? Go ask your papa for ice cream and I'll come down.
I don't want to spread more flies.
Okay, well, go ahead and ask him for ice cream because I'm not coming down until I'm done with this, okay?
When are you done?
10 minutes. 10 minutes, my listeners. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to go from sitting to standing, okay? So sitting to standing, you're sitting in a chair, your feet are flat on the ground, you're going to deep breath in, do that same pelvic floor breathing in, and as you breathe out, put weight into your feet, stand up, and turn your glutes on as you stand up. So you're basically doing like coming up from a squat, but from a supported squat. So you're going to turn your glutes on as you stand up, and you're going to bring that transverse abdominis in as you stand up. So standing to sitting, same thing. You're doing a squat basically, but you have a chair underneath you. So you're going to, as you sit down all the way, you're going to imagine yourself weight more in your heels than your toes. You're going to close your transverse abdominis, and you're going to sit your butt down slowly, almost like the chair is not there. And then if you want to, you can do these supported squats up and down, before you can exercise, because all you're doing is sitting down and standing up. We're just doing it mindfully. So you're going to squeeze your glutes as you stand up. And then as you sit back down, weight is more in your heels. You're going to sit way back, try to support yourself till the very last moment, and then take a seat. Okay. Rolling like a ball is a Pilates exercise that I love for all parts of my life, for postpartum, for when my back is stiff, etc. So you're going to be laying in your bed, you're going to be on the floor on your mat, wherever you are. And we're going to use our pelvic floor technique and rolling like a ball at the same time. So the important thing with rolling like a ball is that our back is very, very round. So you want to actually curve through your lower back, your lumbar spine, so that when you roll up to your upper back, it doesn't go clunk, clunk. You want to go smooth roll so that the bones are nice and rounded. So you're going to roll all the way to your shoulders. And as you come all the way back to your hips, you're going to try to balance in what we call a yoga boat pose or a Pilates teaser, and try to like just balance with your feet off the ground. I like to grab underneath my thighs to do this. And you're going to roll back and up 10 times with your pelvic floor breathing. Inhale, let it relax. Exhale, roll back. Bring your transverse abdominis in, bring your pelvic floor in and up as you roll back and come up on your inhale. Yes, Bean. Oh, she's just going to interrupt me the whole time, you guys. Okay, you got to hang out, Bean. Okay, so static tabletop. So I love a cat-cow, okay? So you're going to find your static tabletop. So you're on all fours. You have your wrists under your shoulders and your hips over your knees, okay? And you're just going to hang out there without moving any bones. You're going to see if you can do that first exercise that I talked about, which is you're going to inhale, let your pelvic floor blossom out, trampoline out away from you. Exhale, bring everything in. This is without the cat-cow. This is just static tabletop, okay? And you want to see if you can get the transverse abdominis to come in and sew together in the front. And you want to see if you can get that pelvic floor to completely relax and then completely engage. Okay. So then we're going to move into our cat-cow with this movement. And you know that you're ready for bigger movements if you can take that cat-cow and the diaphragmatic breathing and marry it together. Okay. So what you want to do in your tabletop is as you... She's talking to herself, you guys. As you let your belly drop and your pelvic floor open and your chest open to the floor, that's your inhale. And your cat is your exhale. You're going to push the floor away. You're going to curl the pelvis. You're going to open. You're going to make your spine rounded to the ceiling. You're going to exhale. You're going to bring your transverse abdominis in and pull your pelvic floor all the way in and up. And then you're going to repeat that for like 10. Okay. So I love the cat-cow because it's kind of natural that breathing is there, and that pelvic floor motion. You just have to do it mindfully. Okay, and the last thing is we want to take all of these pedestrian motions and kind of advance them as you go along. Like if you're doing all these motions, like these very pedestrian motions, and you're doing it successfully, marrying the breath to movement, marrying the pelvic floor work, okay, well then maybe you can like do a really easy yoga at home, down dog to plank, to your cat-cow, back to your down dog, Adasana. Sun salutations with your halfway lift, and then maybe a sun B with your chair pose. Chair pose is a squat, basically. So you can start to move through these motions and progress yourself, and then, magically get a thumbs up from your doctor at 6 weeks telling you that, yeah, cool, you can do everything. You're not going to hurt yourself now. But now you have laid the foundation to do everything you want correctly. And that you can go back to your aerial practice in a way that I did not. I did not do all this stuff. I learned all this stuff as I went along after she was born, many, many months after she was born.
Don't talk about me.
I'm talking about you because you're my love, okay? So, my friends,
I do not listen.
I've decided to record this because I've gotten a lot of people saying, hey, what did you do? And the answer was, I didn't do the right thing, but here's what you might want to do now that I've learned all this stuff, because exercise, air quotes, is like, it's so ambiguous. It's like they tell you that you can exercise. Well, our exercise is really extreme. And if you go from 0 to hero on our extreme exercise, which is straddling up and being 30 feet off the ground and supporting yourself in ways that your body's not necessarily ready after you've given birth. You need micro progressions. And so I wanted to give you guys this podcast that you could go back to if you need to listen to it and start bringing it into your practice. All right, my friends, you're the best. Thank you for being here. Bean, you want to say goodbye to the listeners? Bye-bye. All right, guys, over and out. This is the Expecting Aerialist. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to my guests for carving out the time to be with me. If you would give me a review and smash that 5 stars, it really, really makes a huge difference in other people being able to find this podcast organically. So I thank you for that. Go to my show notes if you want to check the links out for anything, or if you'd like to sign up for any of my workshops coming up. I really appreciate you. If you'd like to be on this podcast, please DM me at CarrieWee1 on Instagram. I would love to highlight your story on this podcast. I want to get as many diverse stories as possible. All right, my friends, over and out. This is the Expecting Aerialist podcast, now with the Digitent Network.